About a fortnight ago, I received a call from a friend in the US. And what was the topic of his call? He said, Shanice, you're not talking. I was like, whoa, I'm not talking. He said, yes, you're not talking. You're keeping mum. I said, I'm keeping mum? Yes. The political atmosphere in Nigeria is so charged and you're not talking. You're just keeping mum. I was like, whoa, that's... Okay, the truth of the matter is this. I didn't really want to talk. Now that my friend has challenged me to a bout that I have to be talking. He has challenged me to a bout. I actually didn't want to talk. Beside that, I haven't really been feeling too well. I've been a bit under the weather. So now that he's come up with this challenge that I'm not talking. Okay, I said, okay, maybe it's time for me to talk and not keep silent, just like what Professor Soludo just said, that he's not going to keep silent. I said, okay, fine. Mine, I was challenged to this bout, so I'm here. And this is me now. Yeah, my friend, I'm sure you're watching me and you're listening to this. I am now about to talk. So my friend went on and said, Peter Obi is in the news all the time. Who among the presidential candidates are you supporting? Support Peter Obi. And that was the conclusion of his telephonic conversation with me. So those who know me, who probably follow me on my Facebook, would attest that I was an adamant and ferocious supporter of this administration. So you should understand why I am taking my time to x-ray this candidate so that I can make an informed choice. So this is me responding to my friend. I have decided to take on the topic, what people are not saying about Peter Obi. Before I delve into the topic proper, let me say this. Nigeria is in a state of economic asphyxiation, stagflation with double-digit inflation, and high cost of consumables, poor governance, infrastructural decay, and complete absence of coordination between the fiscal and the monetary authorities. So let me explain this. About a fortnight ago, the central bank governor announced a change in the design of the Nigerian currency, which will affect 200, 500, and 1,000 Naira notes. A move many analysts have described as a masterstroke, maybe because 80% of the tutu money in circulation are actually outside the banking system, meaning that people are holding, and refusing to take this money to the bank. Instead, they're keeping them in their houses, buried under their mattresses, buried in bushes, in soccerways, and they ask, why would they not take this money to the bank so that the banks can perform its statutory function of financial intermediary to lend this money to businesses, MSMEs, SMEs, so that this can indeed promote economic growth and foster economic prosperity for the people. So maybe that's why most people are saying that it's a masterstroke, because this is now going to really force them, because the central bank has already given a limit to which, like by 31st of January 2023, all the old currency notes will cease to be a legal tender. So these people who are holding this money have just two choices to make. One, it's either they're going to bring out this money and take them to the bank, or kiss their money goodbye come 31st January 2023. So that's what is likely going to happen. So you can see why the central bank monetary policy doesn't seem to yield the expected outcome, because no matter how much the central bank tries to vary its NPR in order to stimulate the economy, it doesn't seem to work. What do you expect when 80% of the total money in circulation are actually outside the banking system? How do you expect that is going to yield the expected goal of varying such NPR? Of course, it's not going to. It's really not going to work. So people are seeing this move by central bank as a masterstroke devoid of any political undertone. I know a lot of people will come out to say that it is actually geared towards 2023 election, presidential election. But whatever that case is it the right move? After all, central bank is supposed to, perform this particular function of changing or redesigning the country's currency every 10 years, and he hasn't done that in over 20 years. So whether it is politically motivated, but the truth of the matter is no economy, no country can survive under this kind of a situation where 80% of your total money in circulation are outside the banking system. I don't think any country can survive in terms of using the monetary policy instrument to effect the desired monetary goals. Now, coming to the coordination between the fiscal and monetary authorities, just like I mentioned earlier ago, that there's a complete absence of coordination between the fiscal and the monetary authorities. The fiscal authority being headed by the Minister of Finance, whose responsibility is to ensure the stabilization of the macroeconomic environment, and the monetary authorities headed by the central bank governor, who is to promote and maintain stability, a sound and efficient financial system through the use of appropriate monetary policy instruments. So these two government agencies are supposed to work in sync in order to ensure the overall objective of governance, that is promoting economic prosperity for the people. That should be the overall objective of these two government agencies. So it was a shock of our lives when we heard this. Take a listen.
This policy of the CBN, upon its announcement and the desire of those who actually had this Naira stacked in their domain, now trying to quickly buy dollar to ensure that they're still able to hold on to their money. Part of the immediate effect on that is that dollar is going up. In the black market, we're told as of yesterday, dollar was exchanging for 788 Naira to $1. So, Honorable Minister, what do you think? One, as to the timing of this CBN policy, and two, as to whether or not this is something that needs to be done at this point in view of the challenges that we already have and which appear to be getting compounded by this policy.
That really you should call the monetary authorities because they're the competent authority to do this. We were not consulted. It was an announcement that we heard. And I've seen,
you just saw the press release like every other body.
First of all, as a fiscal authority, we were not aware of it. It was an announcement.
So that's the Minister for Finance crying to the public that she wasn't in the know of this policy, because how is that even possible that she would not know? Anyway, you can see why things don't seem to work well in this country. When those in authority, those who are supposed to work together to ensure the overall objective of government, overall objective of governance, of ensuring, promoting economic prosperity for the citizens, seem to be working in the opposite direction. So how do you expect things to work well when those who are supposed to work in sync, who are supposed to work together, and not working as if they are opponents? So for me, this is a complete failure of leadership, and that is what I'm looking out for in 2023. Looking for that candidate, looking for that leader that can never allow this kind of thing to happen. A government that is supposed to work in sync to very important agencies in this country, the monetary and the fiscal agencies in this country. They are supposed to work in sync to ensure the overall objective of governance, of bringing prosperity to the Nigerian people. Now they're behaving as if they're rivals. I mean, I don't really understand that. So I'm looking out for that leader that will come in to, ensure that this doesn't happen. Because for me, it's an embarrassment for the Minister of Finance to come out to talk about her not being in the know. So you can see it's so surprising. It's more of a shock to me that the whole Minister of Finance will come out. In any case, even if she wasn't in the know, the president came out and say, oh, it's a good thing. And then when the central bank governor was even talking about that, mentioned that he has obtained, he had written and obtained approval from Mr. President. So what's going on? So I don't really know. So that's why 2023 presidential election is so important for us to get that right leader, to ensure that there's no lacuna, this kind of thing doesn't happen, shouldn't ever happen. So that's what I'm looking at in 2023, the kind of leader that will ensure this kind of nonsense doesn't ever happen. So I understand that there's this temptation to want to jump into the bandwagon because we are desperate to change the system that many probably will believe that has not really worked for them. So there's this temptation to be carried away by the euphoria of change. But like I always say that, and I will say this, when we do things out of anger, because the system is not working, anybody must, remember what happened in 2015. How well have we fared? So when we do something out of anger, this is what is likely to happen. When you are angry and you're taking decisions because you're angry, you see that the outcome of your decision, sometimes when you play back the tape, you ask yourself, did I really take this decision? So it tells you that when you're angry, when you're taking decisions because you're angry, it reduces your IQ level, reduces that thing that would have made you make discerning decision. It's not there because you got into taking that action because of anger. And because you got into taking that action because of anger, you would have missed out on assessing all the indices, assessing all the factors that could probably have led to a very good decision making. So it's not always good to want to make decisions out of anger because it reduces your IQ level. It reduces your intelligence. It reduces your intelligence because you are making decisions out of anger. So what I'm saying today, that fine, there's that temptation to jump into the bandwagon because of the desperate need to change the system, because of the euphoria of change, because we're angry, things are not really working well. And then if we go by anger, we're probably going to miss it because we would not really, we would have lost it because we would not have been able to consider all the factors by extreme or studying and trying to tie every candidate to their scorecards, to their antecedents, to what they have done in the past, to what they have done when they were given responsibility. So these are the things we need to. So we need to be sane. We have to have that discernment. We have to be able to be in the right state and then make these decisions not out of anger. Remember, when you make decisions out of anger, it reduces your IQ level. It reduces your level of intelligence because you are, making decisions based on anger. So that's the point I'm making here. So we need to go beyond such sentiments and critically x-ray these candidates, against the backdrop of what they have been able to do when they were, given this kind of responsibility. How did they manage the resources that were under their command and control? How were they able to drive the IGR of the states? So these are the issues that at the end of the day will separate the boys from the men when it comes to making your electoral choices. So that is what we have to look at, and not base a decision for a particular candidate because we're angry. Because your anger, I keep saying it reduces your IQ level, reduces it makes you make a decision that is based on emotions and sentiments without considering all the factors that would probably give you that opportunity to make an informed choice. So we need to be careful. We need to be careful the kind of decisions. We need to be careful when we are making decisions, and that we do not allow anger to override our sense of propriety, our sense of acumen. That shouldn't happen. So that's the point I am trying to make here. So what are people not saying about Mr. Peter Obi as the CEO of the country? Can Mr. Peter Obi ensure that there is that synergy between the fiscal and the monetary authority so that we can avoid the collapse of what we are experiencing today? Can he? Because it is not just enough to say, I'm going to be a great CEO. It has to be backed up by empirical evidence of track record, of scorecards. It's not just about to say that even if you put a gun to my head, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do when I become the president. I don't think that is the right thing to say.
Recently today, the Americans issued an alert as regards insecurity, threats of terrorist attacks and the likes. If you were Commander-in-Chief, give us step by step of how you would respond to an alert as issued by the Americans just yesterday.
Refine. Even with a gun on my head, I can't give you detail of what I'm going to do with issue of security. But I'm going to be Commander-in-Chief. I'll deal with it decisively. I can't tell you how I'm going to deal with it, because if I tell you that, it won't work.
And this is what people are not saying about Mr. Peter Obi. Yeah, Mr. Peter Obi started his political career in APGA, a party founded by the late Biafran warlord Chief Odumegwu Ojukwu. He wrote on APGA ideology and became a two-term governor, But immediately Mr. Peter Obi served out his term. He quickly abandoned APGA and jumped ship to the PDP in spite of his sworn promise to Chief Odumegwu that he would stay and nurture the ideals of APGA. Yet he abandoned APGA shortly after he served out his term as the governor of Anambra State, where he was hurriedly given the chairmanship of the Security and Exchange Commission, SEC. So if you check the ideological philosophy of APGA and PDP, they're like night and day. Yet Mr. Peter Obi will abandon his ideology for another so quickly in the day. If you ask me, this is a betrayal of trust, and this has cast a dark cloud on his personality, his integrity, and his character. And I can tell you, Anambrians, many Anambrians and APGA members all over the world felt betrayed for a governor that was in APGA serving their purpose would jump into the next ship, would be seen hobnobbing, before one could say Jack Robinson, with another political party, PDP to be precise, in hot romance. So they really, I can tell you that they really felt betrayed, and because for me that's a betrayal of trust. So I cannot, I repeat, I cannot have a president that I cannot trust. Another thing people are not telling you about Mr. Peter Obi is lack of good judgment. I was having a telephonic conversation with another friend of mine who called in from Canada, and he asked the obvious question. He said, Shanice, who are you supporting amongst the presidential candidates? Because me, I'm supporting Peter Obi, he concluded. In response, I told him, I am not supporting Peter Obi. And he said, why? I get one of the reasons I told him was that Mr. Peter Obi lacks good judgment when it comes to identifying a performer, identifying competent people who can, drive the process, you can drive governance and deliver the goods. Because they say government is a continuum. Mr. Peter Obi's successor, Willie Obiano, he raised almost all the growth potentials of the states and set the state backward in terms of economic growth and development. So I don't think I want to have a president that cannot identify a performer, competence and high intelligentials, a president that cannot assemble a good economic team, a good team that can, move the country forward. I don't think I want to have that kind of president, because if you cannot identify performers, if you cannot identify competent hands, if you cannot identify the people that can promote and move the country forward, then we're in a big trouble. And I don't want to have such president. Exactly my point to him. I'm sure he's watching me. He will know that I made this point when I was having this telephonic conversation with him. And that is what people are not telling you about Mr. Peter Obi. They will never say that. They're clouded by sentiment, clouded by anger, and they just refuse to sit down and x-ray the antecedents of Mr. Peter Obi. Study his scorecard, what he did when he was the governor. It's character, because everything is character, everything is reputation, everything is character. If you don't have it, there's no amount of coloration that will make me magically transfer character that you don't have to you. It will never happen. And that's what people are not saying about Mr. Peter Obi of Anambra. Now, check this out. One of the things they're not telling you about Peter Obi is his inability to grow the economy and attract investment to the state. Now, let me tell you this. Anambra State is strategically located to attract loads of investment inflows, being a bridge between the East and the West, and also positioned as one of the commercial hubs in West Africa, with a growth potential of an annual growth rate of 12%. So Anambra State, with $6.7 billion in GDP, compare that to Cross River State, a purely civil service state with over $9 billion in GDP. And don't also forget that Onitsha, with a historic port city, also has is also a center of commerce, servicing the entire East, South, and part of the Southwest. And Onitsha is even the 47th largest built-up areas in the entire world, and second largest urban areas in Nigeria, and only third in Africa. So why is Anambra State not growing? Why is Anambra State not growing? Why is Anambra State stalling in terms of growth? Why is Anambra State not attracting investment to itself with all these growth potentials that are inherent in Anambra State? My brother, it's not rocket science. The answer is not rocket science. It's simple, poor leadership, And this was a state that was governed by Mr. Peter Obi for 8 years. How many or how much investments did they attract to the state? How did they revamp the state? What were his scorecards? What were his achievements? What were the milestones that he conquered as the governor of the state that now is just dancing all around the place, wanting to be the president of Nigeria when he couldn't? I mean, I can compare other states that don't even have the growth potential that Anambra has and are doing far better than Anambra State. But why is Anambra State still stuck in the middle? It's bad leadership. And I ask, where is the capacity when it couldn't turn around the fortune of Anambra State? What makes him think he can turn around the fortune of a country as complex and diverse as Nigeria? In fact, it would be an illusion for him to think that he can indeed turn around the fortune of a country as complex and diverse as Nigeria when he couldn't turn the fortune of Anambra State. That is what people are not telling you about Mr. Peter Obi. And again, what they are not telling you about Mr. Peter Obi is his ethnocentric leaning. Mr. Peter Obi doesn't come across to me as a detribalized Nigeria who wants to govern the country, who wants to be the president of a country of over 200 million people, with over 500 languages spoken, with over 371 tribes and over 250 ethnic groups. Some people even put the number as high as 400 different ethnic groups in this country. So you can see that we need a detribalized Nigeria who can actually come in and lead. We need a unifier, someone without the, what I would call, centrifugal forces of ethnicity, which I feel Mr. Peter Obi has too much of these centrifugal forces of ethnicity in him for him to be a unifier who would galvanize and then unite the country, because we are too fragmented as a people. So we need a unifier, someone without the label of that ethnic, sentiments, someone without such label. Because Mr. Peter Obi, because for me, I don't want to have a regional president. I don't want to have a regional president. I need someone, a detribalized Nigeria, who is a pan-Nigeria, who has that pan-Nigeria spread, not an ethnic bigot, so to speak. And I don't see Mr. Peter Obi. I mean, just even look at what is going on among the so-called Obi-Dients. Whenever you express any dissenting view, they cannot even tolerate a dissenting view without them disparaging you, giving you stats that you'll be wondering where they even get the stats from, just because you dare to express a different opinion from what they're expressing. Just imagine what is going on among the so-called Obi-Dients, where they have very little, zero, in fact I call it zero tolerance for dissenting views. Zero tolerance with dissenting views. If you try as much as to express your view, they will hack you down, they'll disparage you and give you labels that you'll be wondering where you even get this from. Forgetting that in democracy, majority will definitely have their way and the minority will have their say. So you can see, I do not want a regional president because we are just too fragmented, too divided as a people to dare to make that kind of mistake of electing a regional president, a president that lacks the pan-Nigerian spread. No, Nigeria will be doomed for that. And that's what people are not telling you about Mr. Peter Obi. Yes, another thing is security. That's what most people are not telling you about Mr. Peter Obi when it comes to security. And then, in fact, as usual, I've had a lengthy conversation with my friends who can't understand why I do not have the Mr. Peter Obi appeal. I probably don't have that because I have carefully studied Mr. Peter Obi, studied Anambra State in terms of security. Anambra State is, when it comes to security, it's very volatile. It's like a keg of gunpowder. It's like just waiting to explode. And I know that some people will come for me. They're like, why are you talking about Anambra State when it comes to security? What about in the north? Of course, what did you say? You said the north. I'm not talking about the north. There is relative peace. Relative peace here in the east. So why would Anambra State be singled out? We're not talking about the north. Please don't even drag me there, because that's not what I'm talking about. There is relative peace in the east. So why is Anambra State, why is the state volatile when it comes to security? So I have studied this, and this is the state Mr. Peter Obi governed for 8 years, and then it cannot even bring relative peace. And this was the state he governed for 8 years, and he cannot even bring relative peace to the state. A state characterized and taken over by the plethora of unknown gunmen. IPOB, that murdered in cold blood their own son. Not strangers, their own son. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying murdering of strangers actually justifiable. That's not the point I'm making. I'm just saying that in a state, their own people murdered their own people. I'm just talking about Dr. Akinle, the husband to the late Professor Dora Akinle, who was murdered in cold blood. And quite recently, the assassination attempt on the life of Ifeanyi Ubah, who was very fortunate to have escaped, many thanks to his fortified bulletproof jeep. But unfortunately, his security details were not so lucky, as 6 police officers were gunned down in cold blood. And this was the state governed for 8 years by Mr. Peter Obi. And I have an ask. Where does Mr. Peter Obi live? Where does he live?
And one of the candidates running against me lives in Lagos. That's Peter Obi. Is it Obi? He's disobedient. He lives in Lagos, not in Anambra. He doesn't know the road back to Anambra.
Could it be the reason he is now living in Lagos? Because of security concerns in Anambra State. He wants to govern Nigeria a country riddled with all kinds of security challenges. If Lagos wasn't made safe, for goodness sake, for crying out loud, if Lagos wasn't made safe, where do you think Mr. Peter Obi will be taking refuge? Where? Because, again, how can someone who wants to be the president of Nigeria, yet some miscreants in the name of IPOP have unlawfully declared the busiest day of the week, Monday, without sit at home, without recourse to the economic hardship thrown at the daily income earners, the petty traders, the Okada riders, the keke riders, the woman that is selling akara on the road, who relies on this daily income to feed her family. And then they declared that I'm not saying other days are not important, but that's the first day of the week to tell you how callous these guys are. Sit at home. And Mr. Peter Obi, who wants to be the president of Nigeria, cannot move mountain by powerful negotiation with stakeholders to stop this menace of sit at home. That is not the kind of president I want to have. The regional presidents, they say talk is cheap. When it comes to action, that is when you separate the boys from the men. Peter Obi should slow down. Peter Obi should slow down on his talking. His endless tunnels of gaps and equates ideas should rather be turned into actionable plans for the people, not when he is asked, when you become the president, what are your strategies? And he will say, even if you put a gun to my heart, I'm not going to tell you my strategy. But you can churn out all the statistics. How China is doing this, how Singapore is this, how Egypt is doing that. But when you ask him, he tells you, put a gun to my head, I'm not going to tell you my strategy. Nobody says you should tell anyone strategy. Just tell us how you're going to do these things. You're shying away from the truth. So that's what I'm saying, talk is cheap. Now, my closing thoughts. So I understand why people, especially the youths, are angry considering the trajectory of things in the country and maybe with some of the presidential candidates. But just like I said earlier, anger, you don't make decisions, you don't take actions when you are angry, because anger diminishes your intellectual capacity to think, diminishes your IQ level. So you don't make such important decision as to electing the president of this country, because we are at a crossroad. So we need to be sane. We need to devoid, our decisions need to be devoid of emotions, and then check the facts as they are, and then we make our informed choices based on facts, based on one's scorecard. I know that many youths are really yearning for change. They want a paradigm shift, and some probably think that Mr. Peter Obi is the contrast to this aspiration, to these wishes of, they just feel it. But I will always say that you have to marry each presidential candidate based on his antecedent, his scorecard, what is done in the past when given such responsibility. That's what you should base your decision on, and not on anger. That's what I am saying this. So I understand why they're yearning for a paradigm shift, and some see Mr. Peter Obi as a contrast to this. But I will always say you have to carefully study his antecedents. Hello? So I understand why they are yearning for a change, why they are yearning for a paradigm shift, and some see Mr. Peter Obi as a contrast. With that, carefully on, studying his antecedents, his scorecard, his capacity, and his ability to galvanize and assemble a good team. I haven't really seen him display any of these traits throughout his political career, other than his usual buying and selling trading business and his endless tunnels of gafes and inchoates and churning of unverified statistics. The president of Nigeria should be a tutu package, one who goes beyond rhetorics and mere promissory note that I will do this or I'm going to do this when I am elected as the president. It goes beyond ascetic lifestyle. It goes beyond extreme frugality. Nigerians are saying, because Mr. Peter Obi appears to be a frugal person, someone he has that austereness in him, and he would not waste our resources. Of course, now the same was said of President Buhari, that he has this austere lifestyle. He was extremely frugal, and that where has that gotten us to? So it goes beyond saying that one has ascetic lifestyle and has extreme frugality, and for that reason the person will be able to manage resources. No, if you don't have what it takes to put a good team together, and even if you put a good team together, be able to manage the economy well enough, of course we'll continue to be where we are. We'll continue to be wallowing in this kind of situation of poverty, penury, and destitution. So we need a leader that is more than this. Like I said, it has to be a tutu package. So, because like I said, those seeking political power should concentrate more on the real issues rather than gripe about failed economic theories backed up with bogus, unverifiable statistics that Mr. Peter Obi has come to be identified with. So this is where I drop the curtain for today. But before I sign off, let me leave you with the words of Aristotle, that it is only a beast or a non-human that wouldn't be interested in politics. So get your PVCs ready and elect the leader that has the capacity to do the aforementioned. Thank you for finding the time to watch my video. If you like the content of this video, please give it a thumbs up, strike on that notification bell so that you get to be notified whenever I upload a content like this. Leave your comment down below and do not forget to subscribe to this channel. See you pretty soon. Peace out.